and welcome to Modify It For Me, a game series where I take games rated for ages 8+ and modify them to play with children as young as 5. So today's episode is a little bit special to me because I'm going to be modifying my all-time favourite game, Clank in Space. Now, Clank in Space is a deck building experience for 2 to 4 players. It's rated ages 12+. And it's a deck building space adventure. It's fun, it's cheeky, it's silly, it's all the things that children would want in a game, but it's got a complex system which makes it for those 12+ players. So I have been working on this modification for a few months now with my children. We have been working to find a way to balance that accessible gameplay for them while also keeping it fun for me. And I think we have finally come up with a solution that I am happy enough to share with the public now. So I hope you enjoy this modification guide, and hopefully soon you'll be playing Clank in Space with your kids as young as 5 too. So to modify this game, I've had to make quite a few adjustments to a lot of areas of the game, while also trying to keep the balance of not watering it down too much, because this is one of those experiences where you want to have the experience. So firstly, to begin with, we're going to reduce the playtime. We are then going to adjust some of the setup rules. Next, we will simplify some of the gameplay, which is mostly to do around movement. And the final thing we're going to do is simplify the deck building. We'll be using almost every single component. To begin with, we'll start by taking one data cube away from each of the player boxes, because they will only be hacking one module during the game. We will also be removing a number of cards from the adventure deck. I'll be making a list of these cards at the end, but the easiest way to identify them is that they don't have any benefits in their top corners. So we'll not be using bottom abilities in this modification, so if there's no top ability, they're useless for us in our deck. The exception to this is cards which have boss attack symbols on them, so they don't have top abilities, but they do have boss attacks, and they'll be staying in our adventure deck. In this modification, we'll be ignoring all arrival abilities and danger, as well as all on-acquire abilities or events. The final thing to consider is that these boards are modular and double-sided, so we'll be using the hydroponics, the arena, and the med lab side of these boards because they have more healing and easier access points. Now it's time to set up. To set up, we begin by building our board. So we've got our modular boards in here, and we have our base boards around the sides here. We have our minor and major secrets around the board. We have our escape pods. We have Lord Eradicus on the rage tracker. Now he always starts one space down from how many players you're playing with for our modifications. So our 2-player game will start at the 3-player mark, with our assassin cubes and our elevator lock. We also have all artifacts available no matter what the player count is, and we have all market items available no matter what the player count is. We have our access passes ready to be given out when we hack our modules. We have power crystals. We have our credits off to the side. We have our reserve cards, and we have our adventure row, which always has 6 cards in it. We have our Clank bag, and it's filled with those black Clank cubes from earlier. Each player begins with their data cubes. We only need 1 for this game, their Clank cubes, and their starting deck of 10 cards shuffled and face down. Players' meeples begin on the start space. In Clank in Space, players are racing into the ship and trying to get access to the command center. In there, they will take an artifact and get back out to the skateboard as quickly as they can. You'll be doing this through building a deck and playing cards from that deck. On a player's turn, they will draw 5 cards and place them face up with an open hand. Players will then go through their available cards and complete the actions in these top corners. You will use your power points in your hand accumulatively to buy new cards, so that would be 3 power points to spend. I'll then choose a card to buy either from the adventure row or from the reserve cards. Once a card has been purchased, it goes into your discard pile, and you will then replenish the adventure row. If a card with a boss symbol is drawn, you must immediately do a boss attack. To complete a boss attack, you will take all of the cubes in the Clank space and place them into the black bag. You'll shake the bag around, and then you will blindly draw the amount of cubes as indicated on the rage tracker. Black cubes are safe and nobody's to receive damage. If, however, I was to draw coloured cubes, they would go on your hit point tracker. After the boss attack, you will then discard this card from the adventure row because it has no top abilities, and you'll replace it with a new card. Players will move through the ship via passageways. There are a number of different spaces to observe. We have these passageways with double boots, which we'll be ignoring for the modification as they slow the game down. We have locked passageways where you need the key from the market to access. We have double guard ones where you need 2 swords in your hand to pass through. We have single guard ones. We have security spaces with these red markings, which we'll be ignoring. They slow the game down as well. We have our elevator shaft, which you can ride along. We've got spaces with gems, which will earn you a power crystal. We have spaces with credits, which will earn you credits. We also have spaces with hearts, which will heal you. We have portals where you need the portal key to ride through. And we have marketplace squares where you can spend 7 credits to purchase any of these market items. In order to gain access to the command room, you need your access pass, and to get that you have to hack a module. You just need to do one of these in our modified version. You'll move on to that space, one indicated with a green data module space, and you will say that you're going to hack it. You'll place your data cube on that space and collect the benefit underneath it, which in this case is 1 credit. You'll then gain your access pass. Now you may enter past these spaces with your access pass. When a player hacks a module, Lord Erraticus is enraged and goes up 1 space on the rage tracker. With their access pass, players will come into the command room to take an artifact. When you pick an artifact up, it is the only one you can take. When a player takes an artifact, he also goes up. He does this for each player, and when he reaches one of these markers, these red assassin cubes go into the Clank bag. These act as damage against every player when they're drawn. Now it's time for you to get out of there as fast as you can. Ideally, you will just reach the escape pod and be able to take those extra 20 points, but that doesn't always happen that way. So if you end up with getting 10 hit points on your character and they're outside of this final module, you won't actually be able to score it all. If, however, you get 10 hit points and you are inside the final module, you will be able to score, but you aren't able to reach an escape pod. Once all characters have either escaped or have been captured, it's time to score. So scoring is quite straightforward. We have points in our cards with these little green symbols. We have points for market items. We have points that we have uncovered through secrets, credits on those ones. We have points in our artifacts. We have points as credits. We also will be scoring 2 points per power crystal in this modification, just to make an extra incentive there for landing on those spaces. You'll tally your score up together and the person with the highest score wins. The really fun thing about this game is that it's not about the first person to make it off the ship or even the person who does make it off the ship. It does come down to points. So now it's time to level up, which is my favourite part, especially for this game, because Clank in Space really just has so much to offer when you do build back out to that core game experience. The first thing we're going to do is adjust the playtime. We're going to do that by making you do 2 modules, so hacking 2 modules instead of just hacking that one that we've reduced it down to. This does extend the gameplay quite a bit, especially when you add in the movement rules, which we'll add in soon. The next thing is we're going to adjust the setup. So we're going to be scaling our game again. So if you're playing with 2-player, use the 2 players scaling rules. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to adjust that gameplay around the movement. So we want to be doing those double boot passageways. We want to be observing those. This does complicate the system. It means that the one turn you might not be able to move because you don't have those double boots. You also want to be observing the security checkpoints and making sure you stop still where you stand when you do move into those spaces. The final level that we're going to do, and this is going to be the biggest one that you might want to do gradually by adding some cards back in slowly that are more simple to read. This does rely on reading a lot because you want the kids to be able to look at that adventure row and read all those abilities, those extra abilities down the bottom of the cards, and decide what cards they want to buy for themselves without you having to read them every time. Once you've done all that, you are basically playing Clank in Space with your kids. So I hope you have so much fun with it. Clank in Space is amazing. Enjoy, and I'll see you next time. Here's a quick summary for you to jump back to if you need a refresher later. Thank you for modifying it with me. I hope you enjoy this series, and I'll see you next time.